May Arts Week on the Paper Crafters Library blog, and every day during the week of May 14th to the 18th, 2012, we'll be sharing different project ideas featuring gorgeous May Arts ribbons. At the end of the week, 2 lucky winners will receive their choice of any 4 rolls of May Arts ribbon, and we'll share more details on how you can enter to win at the end of this video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this sweet card, which features this beautiful yellow May Arts chevron patterned ribbon. So here I've got in front of me a piece of pattern paper from the Prima Sunkiss collection, and this is called the Sunshine Path pattern. It has this blue on one side and then that really pretty yellow on the other side. And I cut a piece that's 4 by 5¼ inches. The ribbon I'm using is this really pretty chevron pattern from May Arts, and the cardstock that I'm using to create my border is called the Tropical color, and it's from the Basil Basics line of papers. Now, as you can see here, it's already been die cut in a border shape in this brackets, and for that I used my Spellbinders Classic Bracket Edgeability in my Grand Caliber. So I simply took a 1 by 12 inch strip of the Tropical Basil cardstock, and then I die cut it, and I was left with 2 pieces that look like this. Now, rather than cut a second piece, I'm actually going to use both of them. So I'm going to start by aligning my pattern paper on my grid paper, and then positioning or determining where I want the position of my bracket to be. And that's going to be based on how far I want my ribbon to be in from the end. So I'm just going to have a little bit of this bracket sticking out on either side. So if I have the other, it'll end up being about a ½ inch away from the right side of the paper. So I'm going to align the straight edge of this bracket piece 3/4 inches in from the edge of my pattern paper piece. So I'm just going to use some double-sided adhesive for that. And then I'm going to try to position this in such a way that the brackets themselves are even. And it actually works out perfectly that the brackets fit four brackets on either side. So I'm going to take, now that I've laid that down, my scissors, and I'm just going to trim along the top and bottom edge, and I think I'm going to have to put a little bit more double-sided adhesive just underneath that end. So now I'm going to just take a look at where I need to align my other piece if I want my ribbon to be, the ends to be hidden underneath the ribbon. And it looks like if I position it so that not the tip, but I guess the little hump of the bracket touches my line ½ inch in, then I'll get a nice size border on either side of my ribbon. So I'm just going to take my double-sided adhesive again, and I'm going to put some on the back of my bracket piece, and I want it to extend the 4 bracket length, and then I'm going to use my grid lines as a guide to help me position this on my pattern paper. So I actually ended up almost butting it up against the other piece, and I'm just going to now trim the overhanging edges. So there you can see I have my border piece. So all that's left to do now is to stick my ribbon across it, and for that I'm going to run double-sided adhesive straight down the center of this cardstock border piece, and then I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to lay it over top of the adhesive across the center of my cardstock border. And then I'm just going to flip this over, and using my double-sided adhesive, I'm going to use a little bit of that so that I can fold my ribbon edges over to the back of this piece. Now at this point I'm ready to center and stick this piece onto my cardstock mat, and I'm using the same color, the Tropical, and I've cut this 1/8 inch bigger all around, just so it leaves a small border of the blue showing. So the Tropical cardstock piece is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to center and stick that to my card base, which is a cream colored cardstock from Paper Tray, and I've cut it to a standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. And I did that by starting with a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece and then folding it in half. So there you can see what that now looks like. So we're ready to move on to the embellishments for the card. So for the embellishments for my card, I've chosen this blue flower that comes from this collection of Primo flowers. It's also from the Sunkissed collection called Vinetta. And I have a Jenny Bolin vintage button here. I've got some button jute or button thread from Paper Tray, and then I've die cut this label out of that same cream colored cardstock from Paper Tray that I used. And I used this collection of dies from Spellbinders called Fancy Tags 2. And once again, I used my Grand Caliber for that. Now, I've chosen a greeting from Paper Tray that just says Sweet on it. And I'm going to stamp that onto my tag using my Ranger Archival Jet Black ink. Now, I'm just putting a little bit of my Dotto adhesive on the back of that tag, and then that'll hold it in place while I'm stamping my greeting, and just make sure that it doesn't shift. Now, because this is a clear acrylic stamp, I can see through my block to help me position it on my label. So there you can see what that looks like now that that has been stamped. So I'm just going to position it on my card close to the bottom, and then I'm going to have the one flower here, and then I'm going to have my button here. Now for my button, I do want to take some of this button thread, and I cut a piece that's approximately 6 inches, and I'm just feeding it through the holes on the underside of the button and bringing it up through to the front, and then I'm just going to tie this in a bow. And then once, of course, I have my bow tied, I'm just going to trim the ends. Now, the reason I picked this rather than baker's twine, I was actually thinking of using some of my baker's twine. Only problem being the baker's twine was white, and all the colors on my card are cream. So the closest thing I had to cream was this button thread. So as you can see, I've now tied a bow and then trimmed the ends. Now the other problem I ran into is that my flower has a white pearl center. Now this is pretty easily rectified if you have an alcohol-based marker like Copic, because it will color on any kind of a surface, non-porous surfaces. Regular dye-based markers won't, they only work on porous surfaces. So this is the Y32 color, and I'm simply going to take the brush tip and I'm just going to brush it over my pearl at the center of this flower. I'm not worried about being too perfect, I just want to take the edge off the white. Now if you find when you're doing this the color ends up being too light, you can always go a little bit darker. But as I said, it's not that I want this to be a nice bright vibrant yellow, it's just that I don't want it to look quite so stark and white against the cream. So I'm just going to continue brushing the tip of my Copic marker across my pearl center of my flower until it gets to the color that I'm looking for. So I've now finished coloring the center of my pearl so it has this slight yellowish tinge to it, and I'm ready to assemble my card. Now when I look at the elements on my card, I've placed them how I want them stuck down. I find that this white seems to, or this vanilla piece seems to get a bit lost against the background. Now unfortunately I can't layer it onto a larger die because there isn't one. So what I did was I just took a scrap of that tropical cardstock that I had left, and I'm going to create a little bit of a border above and below my label. So I'm going to take my cardstock and just making sure that it doesn't overhang on the flourishes, I'm going to give a small border like so, and then I'm just going to trim it here. So there you can see it gives a little bit of definition there, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So as you can see now with this, my piece just pops a little bit more. So I'm now ready to take my double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to put a little bit of that on the back of my greeting label, and then I want to position it so that it is probably about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom of my card, like so. And then I can go ahead and place my remaining 2 elements. So I'm going to be sticking my 2 pieces down using some hot glue. So I've placed a bit of hot glue there, and I'm going to place my first flower on top, or my only flower that I'm doing actually. I'm just going to place the flower first, and then I'm going to take a small dab of hot glue over here, and I'm going to place the button, tucking it just underneath the edge of the flower. So I've stuck my button down now with my hot glue, and I'm now going to just I think, place another little pearl there. And here I have these pearls from Hero Arts, and it's this medium-sized pearl that I want to use. But first I'm going to take my same Copic marker I used for my flower center, just to give that a slight yellowish tinge so that it matches the pearl in the center of my flower. And then I can go ahead and stick that directly onto the label like so. And it just adds a nice little touch because we've got the pearl here, and it kind of brings that pearl theme across onto that side as well. And actually I think I'm going to color a couple more and just stick them down here. So I'm going to color them with my Copic marker, and I'll be right back. So I finished coloring the pearls, and I added them to a few spots in my card, and I also took some of these rhinestones that were on this sheet and I just interdispersed those as well, just to add a little bit of extra interest and bling to the card. So our project is now finished. As we mentioned at the beginning of this video, at the end of this week, 2 lucky winners will receive their choice of any 4 rolls of Mayarts ribbon. One winner will be chosen from all the comments left in the Paper Crafters Library blog throughout May Arts Week, and one winner will be chosen from all the comments left on the May Arts blog throughout the week. Winners will be announced on Friday, May 18th, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To enter to win, visit the Paper Crafters Library blog and leave a comment in the post you see here. If you're watching this video from somewhere other than our blog, you'll find a direct link to this post in the video description section. Now, while you're there, we invite you to check out the benefits of becoming a Paper Crafters Library member by clicking on the Benefits of Membership link at the top of our blog. Now, be sure to visit our blog every day this week for more great projects using Mayarts ribbon and for more opportunities to win, as each day you leave a comment counts as one entry. Winners will be announced Friday, May 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you on the blog!